Greetings all! Today, we will be examining the relatively uncommon water-flying type Pokemon Ducklett, the Water Bird Pokémon, and its uncommon evolution Swanna, the White Bird Pokémon. Though perhaps not the most intimidating of Pokemon, the members of the Ducklett family are good-natured birds that can definitely bring the powers of the water and flying types upon any that dare to confront them in a fight. Ducklett resemble ducks in form, even though they are technically swan chicks, with light blue feathers covering the upper half of their body and decent-sized wings, and darker blue feathers covering their lower torso. They possess yellow, webbed feet that help them to swim in the water, and they match the color of their prominent bill. Their eyes are fairly large and black in color, and they possess a two-feather sprig of a crest on the top of their head. While Swanna possess webbed feet like their pre-evolved form, that is one of the few things that they really have in common, and even then, their feet are a dark gray color. Almost the entirety of their body is covered in brilliant white feathers, save for a pair of crests on their breast region that stick out and are light blue in color. Their wings naturally billow out in a crested shape to their sides, and they share a similar billowing crest shape on the sides of their head, complete with a twin-piece crest in the center of the top of their head. They possess an incredibly long, thin neck and smoky gray eyes, and while they still have a yellow bill, it is much less a bill than a pointed beak, perfect for pecking at intruders that get too close to Swanna and those they care for. Ducklett and Swanna are fairly peaceful bird Pokemon that are of little threat to people and most Pokemon, as they primarily only dine on plants, with Swanna only supplementing this diet with insects and especially fish. While these birds can be capable of flight at a fairly young age, they are primarily water dwellers for the most part and have a stronger initial affinity for the water type than the flying type. So much so that they are born with access to the water gun attack before they can even learn any flying type attacks. Ducklett in particular will stay in the water for most of their life where they are safe from most predators, and even if they are scared by something or their life is in danger, this choice of habitat can help them survive, as they will often use their water sport technique to violently splash water with their wings before escaping under the cover of the spray to safety. Generally, however, these creatures are rarely alone, as they are often carefully watched by their parent Swanna until they are old enough to learn how to fly on their own. And if anything dares to attack them while their parent is observing them, the attacker will rarely be the one to get away with the better deal, as Swanna will viciously attack them with their long, pointed beaks until they go away. This can be especially dangerous for unarmored foes, as Swanna are able to use their long necks to whip their head back and forth to deliver repeated painful strikes that can easily puncture skin and leave the attacker with a nasty wound they won't soon forget about. Thankfully for Ducklett, they are fast learners and can usually fly only after a week or two of training, and once they can move through the sky on their own, they will leave the safety of their parents to start a new life in a separate body of water, eventually developing the power to learn potent flying type attacks like Brave Bird and Hurricane. As far as their abilities go, because of their avian nature and strong eyesight, these birds can possess keen eye and big pecks as base abilities, while their aquatic affinity can potentially lend them access to the hydration ability as a hidden ability. In terms of stats, in the case of Swanna, while their stats are not terrible, they are also not that great as a whole, and are mostly below average for a fully evolved water and flying type Pokemon. The only stat that is above average for their assigned types is their base speed stat. This is especially apparent in looking at their EV yield, as it changes from 1 in HP as Ducklett to 2 in speed as Swanna. Even so, these birds are elegant creatures that can definitely add a bit of class to any team, and are surprisingly strong when armed with the best moves they can learn naturally. While Ducklett are not initially born with the ability to fly, they are natural divers, and their water-repellent feathers ensure that they never get soaked and lose any sort of mobility from being in the water for long periods of time. Being better at swimming than flying does them a great deal of good in the wild as well, as it allows these young birds to feed on their absolute favorite food, peat moss. While it might not exactly be that delectable to other life forms, Ducklett adore the material as it is rich in the nutrients they need to grow and develop into Swanna. So, if there are a lot of ducklet in an area, it is a sure sign that there is likely a source of peat moss nearby. Unfortunately, this has had the effect of making ducklet a bit skittish towards humans, though not necessarily because they fear us. More so, it is because they fear us taking their primary food resource for our own use. Since peat moss is technically the lowest grade of coal, it can be burned in large quantities in order to produce heat, and in the past, ducklet populations were, and still are used, to map out peat moss deposits for commercial use, oftentimes driving them out of the local area as a result. As such, it is usually best to leave ducklet nesting sites alone and not to tell others about them, as there are many unscrupulous people out in the world who would think nothing of driving the birds out of the area just to get access to the peat moss deposits nearby, and it can, as a whole, make it very difficult to obtain one of these birds if their safety cannot be communicated properly in an encounter. While Swanna have been known to dine on peat moss, they tend to have a more varied diet of insects and fish, so they can often be found in a wider range of habitats than ducklet, despite still being a bit rarer to come across. Many people adore the looks of these creatures due to the white coloration of their feathers, and over time, these feathers naturally build up a layer of reflective material on the outside that makes them shine when exposed to sunlight and especially moonlight, meaning that they tend to look more beautiful the older they are. Unlike many other life forms, Swanna only ever mate with one other partner in their lives, and are always by their partner's side after successfully courting them. Approaching them together is rarely a good idea, as while the males tend to be fairly aggressive if they feel they or their partner is being threatened, the females are even more vicious, especially if they have just laid eggs or are taking care of their offspring. Interestingly enough, at night, Swanna within a pond or stream will gather under the light of the moon and stars, and will begin to perform a strange but elegant dance, with the group leader always being in the center of the congregation. While it is thought that these well-organized, elegant dances may have been an inspiration behind the sport of synchronized swimming, for the longest time, no one was really sure what the dances were actually for. Modern behavioral tests seem to indicate, however, that the dances are actually performed as a sort of ritualistic celebration of the relationship between Swanna mates, making it akin to a nightly celebration of their union or marriage. This is quite amazing, as it is something that is rarely if ever seen among other Pokémon, and has certainly helped Swanna to stand out from other similar bird Pokémon, though this may be the least of your worries if you're stuck fighting against them, as they will gladly protect their friends and family just as they would their mate in a fight, and can prove to be surprisingly vicious when the chips are down. While they might not be the most conventional of bird Pokémon, the members of the Ducklett family are generally docile creatures that can definitely serve as a good starting point for any trainer looking to specialize in either the water or flying types. They might take a while to get to their adult form compared to some other bird Pokémon, but the wait can be worth it if you need their set of unique abilities added to your team. Just make sure that, if you go to find a Ducklett in the wild, you pay careful attention to your surroundings and make sure that you are not in the presence of adult Swanna. You might be able to get away with capturing their child, but they will gladly unleash their wrath upon you in the aftermath and show you why you shouldn't mess around with these swans without serious protection. Thank you all for watching this video. It is always an honor to be able to speak with you all on the subject of Pokemon in a way that brings me great joy and happiness in my work. If you would like to keep tabs on past and future work, click that subscribe button, check out my work on DeviantArt, and don't be shy about following me on Twitter, where you can find pertinent announcements on upcoming work before it is officially posted. Links to both can be found in the video description. If you would like to support my work and help Miguel and I continue to produce more content for you and improve upon our presentation, please visit us at my Patreon page, which you can also find a link to in the video description. With that, I thank you for watching and I wish you well.